Sound.
You're listening to Mad Sound Radio. And now, here's your host, Charlie John.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 4 of Mad Sound Radio. What we're going to be doing today is airing an older episode of an older podcast that I used to have. It was a live show that I used to do on the internet. It wasn't recorded too long ago, but it features my friend and fellow musician Chris Carpenter. He's an amazing singer-songwriter. He writes for TV and film a lot, for Young and the Restless, for a lot of daytime soap opera kind of shows like that. And you can find his music at chriscarpentermusic.com. He releases a lot of original music as well. Chris, if you're listening, I love you, man. Let's get into it. This is episode number 4 of Mad Sound Radio with Chris Carpenter.
Because you're my one and only. You're my only friend. You're my one and only. You are my beginning and my end.
So the last time it's been a while since I've talked to you. It's was it pre-pandemic, I think, or maybe it was during?
No. I think we did a thing January, early January. We did like a streaming thing together and stuff.
Yeah, that's right. How goes the gigging and the writing?
Oh man, it's good as always.
Is it good? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, things have really picked back up. Like a lot of the local stuff that had gone away. A lot of that stuff that had gone away was is now come back, and it's come back full swing. And it's like 300% more because I added back not only the local gig that I had for a million years, but there was another one that came back in. There was another one I started in August. That's continues like a Monday night thing now, and then I had another one. I had one of the gigs another gig that I used to help book at and everything and perform at as well. Those that they called me like right after Owen was born, and they said, "Hey, can you pull something together for us for next week?" So it's like that, and then as you know, I'm on the road. I'm on the road most weekends and stuff. So generally Thursday through Monday is like this is like, after you and I finish recording today, like I've got a couple of emails, got a couple of administrative things to do.
Sure.
And I feel like I just, I just want to sleep for 3 days, but that won't happen with children. But
no, of course not. You're not allowed to. No. Right.
I can zone out while I'm watching Netflix kids and with a bottle in my hand, feeding Owen and doing the whole deal. So
it's just about figuring out your time, right? I mean, all the gigging and stuff and the writing, it's now about structuring your time with kids.
I mean, it's time management and everything. I mean, it's incredibly rewarding to be a parent. I can tell you that. Like, it's awesome.
Sure.
It's awesome. And I'm sure you've heard me say that before.
Oh yeah.
Stuff has stopped we've met, it's incredibly rewarding. And I mean, it just becomes like those kids just become the top priority. I mean, they just like your spouse does.
Yeah.
It's like, just like your partner does, they become, it's like they kind of, squash everything else, but totally. I mean, I mean, the biggest break I've ever had was marrying my wife, I think. I mean, if I'm really going to say that. I mean, I have somebody who, mercifully, she's not in the music business. I'm good. I'm glad you're laughing at that.
No, I have the same thing, man. She's not in the industry, and I love that. I love it.
I think it keeps me grounded in a way that if I did date another artist, if I was dating or married to another artist, I think that would be hard. I mean, I maybe don't show it all the time, but like I can, exhibit some hubris, and I have ego issues and insecurity issues just like everybody else.
We all do. Yeah.
Yeah. It would be hard to,
I really think she says this to me a lot. She says, that's not the only part of you. You know, music's not the only part of you.
Right. Yeah.
And I have to and when she says that, I kind of have to take a step back and go, you know, you're right. Because as independent artists, it is go 1,000% all the time. You gotta keep going, keep doing everything yourself.
Right.
And to have someone there to give you that perspective is really valuable in ways I didn't know it would be, honestly.
Yeah. It's you know, and they'll tell you the things you don't want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
They'll speak truth to you. You know, they'll speak the truth to you when you need to hear it. And you're like, and needing and wanting to hear it are two different things sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
I think that's marriage in general. I think that's having a partner in general, but like, you know, but yeah, that's what I've, you know, gleaned from all these years and stuff. But absolutely. I mean, I don't have a, you know, I mean, I don't have a franchise on anything. I mean, it's
sure.
You're just kind of, you know, you're just kind of biting it off in chunks, you know, at a time. You know, it's like, you carve out time. Like I really have to confess, like I am, you know, I am not like my social media game has suffered over the last little bit. Like if anybody listening later follows me on Facebook or Insta or something like that, Instagram. You know, I've had a couple of things since Owen was born, but not a lot. You know?
Oh yeah, it's and you know, I know that I'm like going against the wind or what, pissing in the wind or whatever, but I don't want to do it. I mean, this whole Instagram seems to be the one for me too, where it's like it's not like TikTok is just a whole other thing. It's just like I don't want to get involved in that. I don't know what that is. I don't know how to do it.
I hear it's fun, but I haven't delved into it either. So.
I know. I hear it's good. I hear it's good for our community too. Like the music community.
I'm sure there will be an eventual thing. Like, you know, I'm sure there will be someone in a position like, you know, somebody with booking or somebody like that, you know, somebody that we would take wise words from that will say, you know, it wouldn't hurt. You know,
do you get that when you're booking places? Do people look at your social media?
Yeah, I think they do a good bit of it. You know, but really when I book, I mean, I have this, you know, and I'm sure things adapt and change all the time. Mm-hmm. Most of what I do in-house for me, like booking for myself and everything, when I'm reaching out to venues, you know, I do the good old email and stuff. And I'll say, you know, here's a little bit, like here's a small little paragraph about what I do.
Right.
Here's some links to check out. Love for you to visit. And here's some extra stuff. And I put, you know, my name, my number, my website, you know, SoundCloud, extra stuff. Like if you feel like diving deeper, which I know most people, it's like if you just stick a link to YouTube or wherever you post videos or Vivo or whatever it is. You know, if you post that, you know, most people are going to be like, yep, let's click on that. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right. That's way more personal. It seems like it just seems more intimate and more personal connection that way.
Yeah. Well, I've made lasting business relationships based on that. Mm-hmm. Now, I do think it's great. I mean, I do, you know, I think people do. I make it easy for people to find, social media and Spotify and Apple Music and all of those places where they can go hear me and see me socially via my website. But I'm, you know, and I always tell people that. And then the thing, I think I was talking about this when we did a thing back in January.
Yeah.
I think that I'm sure I talked about this. I've resurrected my email list. Like just an email list. And you're one of the people that has inspired me to do that because I'm on your email list. I get updates and stuff like that. And I'm like, cause I'm, you know, obviously I'm a friend and a fan.
Sure.
And so I'm going, man, look, Charlie's killing it. Look at that. Like, I love getting updates and I'm thinking, and that was one of the things, you know, seeing your stuff sparked me to go, I need to do that too. That's the best way. That's one of the best ways still to, I think, keep up with people and your core.
Yeah.
You know, your tribe, I think, you know,
it's definitely lasted. It's still lasted through the test of time. It's not like posting on social media. It's it's kind of personal.
Right. Yeah. Great. And now I have fallen off, like I said, like, cause you knew I was trying to I felt like a, you know, chicken with my head cut off trying to get my stuff because I haven't done anything like via, I've lost a little bit of my techiness that I was developing and stuff last year.
You got 2 kids.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's that too. So,
yeah, that's a whole life right there, man.
Right. So I miss doing live streams and stuff because I had all that last year, and it was really fun to do this sort of pseudo setup from here in the office and stuff, and really get to, but again, that core group, a lot of folks that will, I think one of the benefits of social media or having things like Facebook Live or Instagram Live is there is this, at least in my experience, there is this core group of people that will come and see me every time I'm in their region or whatever. They want to try to get out to a winery I'm playing. So, for example, they're usually like my Facebook faithful. Mm-hmm. And so they'll be in the chat and they'll just start requesting songs and do that kind of thing.
Really cool.
And I love that. And I love doing that. And I said, we're going to do more of that sweeping declaration. And
I do that all the time. I know. I'm like, I'm going to do Facebook Lives every week. And then that fell off quick.
I think, but I also think that everybody was so eager getting out of the, coming out of, we're still in it, I know, but coming out of some of these waves of COVID and the pandemic and how that's all affected us in the last year. I think people are what I've seen, and I don't know if you've seen this when you've played out live and stuff, when you've been doing shows, but what I see, man, people are so, especially March, April of earlier this year. Yeah. People are so eager to get out.
Yes.
People were it was because we've all lived this life. We've all sort of lived our life, had to live our lives digitally.
Yes.
Experience those things kind of at a distance and literally at a distance probably, but so, I was just so tickled to death that people were, it was you kind of, it was sort of like you were, it was like T-ball where they put the tee up and you could just lob it out. It was I
can do anything.
Man, it's like you felt like Superman for a couple months when everybody first came back and when the vaccine first rolled out and everything. And so, but that's continued, it's steady. And of course, here in Nashville, people are, the tourism thing picked back up. And the thing I'm really tickled about, because I wind up playing for a lot of these folks at local venues here, a lot of the hospitality venues I play, the business folks are kind of starting to drift back in. And I was told, they said, fourth quarter of 2021, we should see some people getting together for conferences and meetings and stuff. So you get business travelers. And I like that mix. I think when I play for people, being a guy that plays and where I play and lives where I live, it's I like the mix of your hardcore tourists, your family guys and your business folks.
I love it.
It's a good swath,
It's really good.
And I can kind of, there's a Venn diagram with all of those, so I'm
so just to give people a little background on you, we've been, it's been 4 or 5 years we've known each other, right? Since that first show, which by the way, Scott's revamping those. There's a new location in Florence, Kentucky, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Because I know they moved, right? He
had to move. I think the rent was going to go crazy or something. So he moved to Kentucky, but we'd love to have you again. I'm sure he would love to have you again, but
oh man, I'd love to come back.
That's so fun. So I opened for you back 4 or 5 years ago at the Downtown Listening Room in Cincinnati, Ohio. And so you're a bona fide songwriter in Nashville. You know what I mean? You've been doing it for a while and you write with this group. What is the name of the group again that you write with?
I write with 2 producers and they call themselves Crew 22.
Right. That's what it is. And you guys, and it's primarily for TV and sync, correct?
Primarily for sync work. Yes.
Okay.
That's kind of our main, that's mission 1.
Bread and butter. Yeah.
That's the bread and butter mission. And then number 2 is me getting to cherry pick stuff for Carpenter records, quote, air quotes.
Oh, so you get to cherry pick from those songs, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I wound up doing it. A lot of stuff from my previous records between 2009 and now are co-writes with John and Rod.
Right. That's really cool.
That's my going to the office thing every Monday and Tuesday. And it has been for, Yeah,
man, boy, I envy you for that. I kind of envy you for that, for being able to go somewhere and just like be about nothing but music. But I saw that you were just on, like, you just had a song. You just had a cut on Young and the Restless, right?
Yeah.
A couple days ago. Yeah,
I think so. It may have been.
That's really cool.
I expect that stuff sometimes too, because it'll roll out afterwards and stuff. And Beth Wernick, who is responsible for a lot of that, who's one of the biggest champions for my music.
Yeah.
And has been for a long time. Beth will post stuff and sometimes she goes, boys, did you see it? You know, so
yeah. I mean, and sometimes you're in your own head. You're like, I can't. I'm just working. I don't really know when it's. I'll just get the checks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and talk about now with kiddos, like you were saying. Well, got kids, with the kiddos, it's like you're keeping your head down and all that kind of stuff. Although, I wrote Beth. This is really funny, Beth. We sent Beth some because she's a friend, man. We go way back now and stuff. And
she was at the taxi. Live thing, and they played your music. It was so cool. So Taxi Music is this sync community online that's for writing for TV and film, and I was a part of it for a long time. And I went to LA to their big convention in November one year, and because we lived in LA in 2019, and I went there. It's a free thing, and she is up there, and she's like, "I'm going to play one of my favorite artists right now. He's so good. He gets me so many placements." And God damn it, she played Chris Carpenter. It was great. It was so great. It was really cool.
I remember when you texted me.
I texted you that, right? Yeah.
That is one of those, like, that's as cool as like when you hear your song on the radio. Like,
right.
Man, one of my friends was there. One of my friends and colleagues, by the way, one of my fellow, one of my fellow musicians and songwriters was there, and he heard it. You know, I was like, oh, that's cool. I wandered around the house. I mean, it's great.
I've worked with Beth a little bit too. They're looking for a lot of Christmas music right now, actually.
Yeah, always with Christmas.
But is that so? Are you doing Christmas stuff right now?
Oh yeah, we do a lot of. We try to do a lot of that stuff because she'll start talking about. As I'm sure you know this, she'll start talking about it she'll start saying, "Feel free to send me stuff" in like August.
Right.
And I mean, we're not that far. We're about I'm about a 4-hour drive away from you guys near Cincy. So it's like,
sure.
In August down here, it's like, 100 bajillion degrees, and you got to start thinking about like snow and Santa Claus.
Gotta get those Santa hats on. Yeah, totally.
And all this stuff and hot cocoa and things, and it's like, like it's hard to get it. For me, it's always been hard to get in that mindset in the middle.
Totally. And I this kind of goes hand in hand with it, but I've always kind of wondered, for you at least, what is the difference in mindset between writing for your own record and being in the studio with Rodney and John and writing for specifically for TV?
Well, there really isn't much of one. I think there's no like I didn't really come into it when I started it. I didn't really come into it with any predetermined boundaries because I didn't know any better. I mean, I was 24 when I started writing for Sync.
Yeah.
And really the first couple songs that hit were not written to be, I mean, they were just solely my two cuts from my first record. So the first two cuts that I had, which, the first one was Beth picked up a song of mine called One and Only. I mean, thanks. Yeah, that's
a great song. I love that song.
And I wrote that song when I was 19 years old, and it survived into like me making my first record.
Yeah.
And it was one of my, it was one of my fan favorites and stuff. Right. And people I was getting a reputation for. And John just said, I like this song. I'm going to send it to Beth Wernick at Imaginary Friends. And she goes, I love this. I'm going to try to get it to the Y&R guys. And the rest is history.
That's beautiful.
So I always, my approach is 90% of the time I would say is this going to, am I going to put this on a record one day? Or am I going to put this, I guess now, it's like, am I going to put it out as a single on Spotify,
Which technically you could do for any song that you guys write and record and finish. I mean, you could just, if you wanted to. Yeah.
Now, there have been times I think, I've talked about this. There's the occasional, like that other 10% where we do get a mission, basically. It's like, we need a song that sounds like this.
Yeah.
And I would say maybe it's like 15% of the time. And so try to write it down. But a lot of times for me, and I'll just say this in my experience, a lot of times when I have been that intentional and tried to like hit the target, I never get it.
It comes off wrong.
It never, like, I'm never the guy that's picked for the song. I don't even know if I make it into the preliminary, like, right. I'm going to sing these 3 songs, these 3 or 4 songs, and let them pick between these 3 or 4 songs, or however, whichever sync agent does that, and or whatever their approach is. But I don't even think I make the first cut. It's
man, I'm right there with you. Taxi is basically that. They'll send you specific leads that they need. Mm-hmm. And I haven't gotten anything through. And it's just because I think I'm thinking about it too much,
Yeah.
Part of that writing which is perfect for you because you love doing it. And it's all the songs that you love writing. You know what I mean? That also work for sync.
Yeah. It just happens it just so happens that it works. And that, now I have sort of fallen into that, or I've sort of kind of, built that around me, I guess, by not intentionally. It just sort of happened in that way. Yeah. And, that's what I love. And I have to throw the compliment back out at you because your stuff's incredible. I love, you got, great pop sensibilities and stuff and
thank you, sir.
Your material and everything. And the production's great. Just great songs sung by
great. Thank you, man.
What more do you want? And, so I don't know if there's anything I can say. It's like, thinking too hard about it. When I overthink things, I agree with you. I think that I don't, I think too hard and it usually doesn't work out.
Right. And so you don't ever try to wander outside of the box as far as like pop acoustic singer-songwriter stuff.
No. I will play in other genres. Yeah.
Sure.
Write and perform in other, in various like sub-genres and stuff. But like, I'm not going to probably make, my main thing, acoustic pop rock or acoustic urban pop, that's sort of my 2 mains. And then obviously with a little bit of twang because, it's Nashville, so have a little bit of that. but like I've written what would be considered like a bro country tune or 2 before.
Okay.
And they work. I mean, they're
is that for yourself or for other artists or?
Well, I think they would more fit probably other artists just because like you were saying, artistically people know me as an acoustic pop guy.
Yeah.
Acoustic pop rock. So, for me to come out, there was a song I wrote, it's very specific. And that's a lot of times too, like the vagueness. I find that music supers and sync agents that I've worked with and for, that I've collaborated with and everything, they like a lot of the, they don't like specificity too much.
Right.
Right. So you never have a song with a girl's name as the top or whatever.
That's very, that's very, it's interestingly a kind of a rule in sync writing.
Yeah.
Pretty hard and fast rule that you don't do that. But I wanted to ask you, because I don't think I've ever actually found this out about you, how you got involved with these guys or how would you go about doing it now, getting involved in sync writing?
Oh man.
Just making relationships,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, are you asking or how the whole thing came to be?
How did you get involved with Crew 22?
With Crew 22, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's that first. It's that daggone song. It's that
Oh, right. So they heard it. Okay.
Yeah, I had there was a fellow that played the drummer from that played on my first record. It's a guy named Mike Rodofsky. He and my uncle who produced my first album.
Oh, cool.
They would do music library stuff. They would do incidental stuff and library stuff and everything.
Like production music or
that kind of thing. Production house stuff. Kind of, in a subcategory of sync stuff, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And he was really involved with that. He was kind of hands and feet of that. In that world, I kind of had that foot in that world, and he worked with John and Rodney. And I got a call out of the blue from Mike in March of 2009, and he said, "Hey," he goes, he said, "I just want you to know, I played some of your music for these two guys, John and Rodney, they're Crew 22. They produce. He said they write stuff for TV and they write stuff for sync. And he goes, I don't know. He said they're looking. They just so happen to be looking for a guy with tenor male rock vocals. And the story goes on the other side of that coin with John, where John and Rodney come in. John had just had a meeting with Sam Diaz, who's head of music at CBS Television. And I think Sam's still there. Great dude. Yeah. Sam had said, and this is a direct quote. We can swear on here, right? Sure. A direct quote from Sam. I think he says, John tells the story all the time. He says, John, you got any of that emo shit? and John said, he said, of course you kind of exaggerate or you kind of fib a little bit,
Right, yeah.
Sure, Sam, what do you need us to work on, that. And keep the game going, that kind of thing. Like, never just say, well, no, not really.
Of course not.
Yeah, kind of keep, stretch it out as long as you can.
Right.
So but John said, he said, as best as I could, put together was we at least needed somebody who did tenor rock vocals, like a tenor.
Right.
And so he tells Mike about it. Mike calls me and Mike tells me, I don't know if they want you for sessions, like they want you to sing on something they've already written.
Yeah.
But he said, I think it'd be a good thing for you to make. So John calls me up a couple of weeks after that. And he says, Chris, is there a time in April you can come see us? So I'm thinking, wow, like just 3 weeks from now, he wants me to come. So,
and you're in Nashville at this point?
No, I'm in Kentucky.
You're still in Kentucky. Okay.
I'm getting ready to move. Lauren and I just recently got engaged. Mm-hmm. I was doing worship leading stuff at a church in Lexington.
Oh, wow. Didn't know that.
Still doing the coffee houses and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. All the fun stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, playing for $30 in a panini on Fridays and Saturday nights.
That's good panini though.
Yeah, it is.
It's well worth it.
Those wavy lays.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So that phase, and so we were going to move in the fall, regardless. And I was thinking I was just going to go. Like my plan was, okay, well, I'll go and put in an application at Lowe's. When we
and then down, right on the side, kind of thing.
Right on the side until until it's sustainable enough.
Okay.
That was the plan. Go work at Lowe's.
Sure.
Or
that's a lot of people's plans, by the way. Yeah, that's a lot of people's plans for moving to Nashville. Yeah.
It's just initially just to be there and get it started and means to an end. And so, and me, I get so chatty. So if I need to,
you're good, man.
The story of but what happened was that I got called down there and John said, yeah, we want you to write with us. That's our whole thing. He said, we are composers ourselves, but he said, we are in need of a lyricist here.
Okay.
And he said, and you are a composer and author, correct? And I said, obviously being a singer and stuff like that. So he said, co-write the music with us. You write the lyrics. And we, I'm trying to think. We did 2 tunes at first week.
Okay.
And they liked me. I mean, it was this whirlwind thing. I came in on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
They work. And that Mike told me that. Radofsky told me that. He said, they work fast. He said, so you go down and work 3 days with them. By the weekend, Rodney's going to have a finished mix for you and email it to you when you're back in Kentucky. And I said, okay, cool. So we did that. And I was just trying to make a good first impression.
Sure.
And I thought, man, I have no, I just thought, okay, I'm gonna do the best I can here. I've never really been sent home with homework.
Right.
The next I'm singing,
Did you know that it was for TV at that moment, or did you even know how to write for TV or that kind of thing?
No, I knew nothing about how to write for sync yet.
Sure.
No. But they told me that that's the purposes would be for. So I think, as best I can recall, I went to, I was staying at my friend Jonathan's house. I was sleeping on his couch and stuff. And it was like one of those houses with, 6 dudes living in it already, plus somebody in the guest room, which was the front room. So people would walk by me when through breakfast if I was still asleep.
Right.
It was fantastic. Only being in your 20s. That's
of course. That's the only time it's allowed. Yeah.
Yeah. 23, 24 years old, up to, like up to 25. It's like, that's just life. So I had worked on lyrics and I came in and I thought, well, I really did have this thing of like, here goes nothing. I hope they like this. Because if they don't, it's just not going to work out. But like, I really, for some reason, I felt that there was something, they took me seriously in a way that like, was very, I don't know. I mean, I felt like an instant bond with those two.
Yeah. And so they had really only heard your studio stuff.
Yeah. They really only heard a couple cuts from Atmosphere, my first record.
Right.
And they were basing it solely on that. And then
that's really cool.
We got 2 songs. I think it was Not Quite You and Where You Are, which wound up being on my second record.
Okay.
And immediately, John said, I'm going to pitch these 2. And he said, I'm also going to send out One and Only. He said, because he said, that's a great love song, Chris. It's really well done.
It really is.
And they were impressed. I think, obviously that I came in, that I was, Rodney always says, he said, you had the polish already, man. He was very sweet. He goes, he said, you had that kind of like, he said, we could tell the potential in your professionalism already. Like, he's like, you had, you already had some stuff going for you when you walked in the room. And he tells me now, and he said, and the thing is he said, that's just grown, so that's good. It's good to know that, that keeps happening, that, it's always kind of, renewed and everything and refreshed and everything.
Yeah. And I just remember hearing you for the first time, and it was really a young Jackson Browne, Don Henley kind of thing that you had going. I mean, it was, and I your tone of voice was it was amazing. I mean,
yeah.
And again, all those songs are really well written songs and that kind of thing. Sure. You're still doing it. I mean, that was what, 10 years ago? Like,
yeah, that was 12 and a half
years ago.
Yeah. It's funny you should say the Don Henley thing. And I think I've told you this, when we, at some time ago. But Rodney wheeled back. I think it was session number 2. I think it was the second week I came back and worked with him back at the next month. And he said, man, anybody ever told you sound like Don Henley? I'm like,
true, man. It's true.
I was like, yeah, I'll take it, sure. And so you lean into it after a while, but that into, what turned into like one 3-day, 4-day session with a couple of songs in April of 2009.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was there. I left Rodney's studio an hour ago. So it's been 12 and a half years. Yeah.
That's really crazy. Do you guys, do you guys work with any other libraries? Because right now you work with an exclusive library. Is there any, like, do you want to go to a non-exclusive? Have you ever wanted to do that kind of thing, or any other libraries? Or
we do a little bit of everything. Like we write for, because I know IFMP is an exclusive and stuff like that. So what we send out, we're very intentional about that.
Yes.
What we send out for people, we do try. I think what happens now is that where we are intentional about it is we try to find, as we're writing, stuff that we know, as we're hearing it, as we're mixing it and everything, as we're finishing it up,
mm-hmm.
we try to focus on where we think it's going to go, who we want to pitch it to. And there's a lot of times where you go, yeah, I think I'd like to send this. We go, yeah, we think we'd like to, we'd send this to Beth in Imaginary Friends, because I think they'll really like it. And I think that really fits what they place a lot for us, so there's some there's some strategery there. There's a good,
that's a good word. I love it. Do they only place it's mostly Young and the Restless, right? Or just general soap operas?
It's mostly that, it's some Hallmark stuff too.
Okay.
And there's some other sync agencies that have placed my material and that do, Beth, I just go back and forth. I like, just constantly love on Beth because she has loved on me so much. I mean, she's just been
that's great. And that's the perfect example of finding a connection and staying with it and just like staying loyal to them.
Yeah. And I'm very much about that because I feel like if you can keep, now obviously you have to be adaptable and taste change and things like that. And you have to kind of roll with the punches sometimes. But I find that a lot of times songwriting and performance wise, the more business, the more like longevity you have doing business with, that has been sort of, I think, a secret sauce to my, sustainability in this business. I would say. I mean, that goes for live gigs just as well as like working with sync agents and things. So, but going back to what you were asking me about, if there's other agencies, I mean, there's several, there's like a short list of, our top contacts and everything. And then I always look at things that fascinate me that I would like to get into a little bit, that I just procrastinate about. And Rodney will tell me, Rodney will be the one that always tells me that I procrastinate too much about this. And so January 2022, it's a New Year's resolution. So if I can stick with this for 3 weeks, it'll be great. But if I can get past the 3 week mark with it in January, but micro licensing has been something that has been brought to my attention in the last couple of years. And, I think that's interesting too, because it's not quite like, I mean, it works a lot like sync. And I look at sync as like macro. Yeah. Like that's the big, like when you're on a TV show or commercial or show that's streaming on Netflix or what have you, or a movie, or a movie. But with a lot of that, as far as I can tell, what I know a little bit about the micro licensing world is, it's interesting that people want you for like it's almost like a custom project thing. It's like somebody's doing a big conference, a company's doing a big conference, and they're making a video for that, or they're making some sort of thing, and they need some music, and they don't want to pay, $1 bajillion for like the final countdown, like something or something. I don't know, is what I imagine. But
we're gonna have to pay a lot of money for that. No, we're all good, man. We're all good.
But like something like that, and
so micro licensing is custom writing kind of.
Well, sort of, yeah. I, as far as I can tell, like I said, I would love to do a deep dive with somebody who's had more experience because I don't have as much experience in it. Yeah, and that's kind of what fascinates me about it. I'm like, well, let's see. I mean, you can make a license off of that. Really?
And is it sustainable the way that sync like macro sync licensing, I guess you would call it, is?
Right. Well, and then there's because there's always new, and I'm sure I'm sure I'm telling you nothing you don't know already, but like this is like, I'm sure you're aware of this, but like, there's always new things that you find, there's always that you're like, oh, did you know, somebody told us, like, did you know that this, like what we've recently seen is like some of the episodes that our music has been on. Yeah. You can, like, if people put them up on Vivo or YouTube or whatever, that you get a little bit of, it's, not quite the, not quite as big of a paycheck as like, television or streaming. Sure. But if somebody's done that and your song is played, for multiple spins on that, multiple views, we're looking into some stuff like that actually as another revenue stream.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if I'm telling the secret, but
no, that's
college, so I'm sharing this with you. And if anybody out there,
this isn't going up till early next year. So
cool. Okay, all right. So we got
that is really cool, and it's definitely about finding different revenue streams for all of us all the time. Yeah, and you just happen to be in the sync world, so going down to micro, and I've never actually heard about it until a couple things recently, but then you. But I would love to know more about it as well. How do you go about pitching it? Are there specific libraries that do that kind of thing, or?
I don't know. I really don't. I mean, that's the beauty of it. It's like it's kind of a blank canvas for me right now.
It's a whole new world, man.
I know that we do a lot, and I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of how we're pitching to macro, and how I think we can pitch to how I'd like for myself and Crew 22 to pitch to micro as well, is through Disco, through the Disco website. Are you familiar with it?
I'm not. No. What is Disco?
It is it's a platform. Almost works very similar to it's sort of a SoundCloud platform.
Okay.
And you can obviously there's a free version, with as long as you don't exceed this limit,
right?
Then you don't have to, So there's ways to make it cost efficient. But it's a pay in. It's $10 a month,
mm-hmm.
and I think you can post up to 500 songs or something like that. But you can basically make playlists, and you make playlists, and you can email them and send the links, or email or tag, however you get in touch with folks. Send them to sync agencies or music supers, or if you've got if you're looking for, you've heard about a lead on some sort of somebody's looking for new music, this sync house is looking for new music, that sync house is looking for new material, you can send them the link to that playlist and send them sampler playlists and stuff, and for $10 a month. And the reason we moved to it is because I think John had been in a Zoom conference or two where people were singing its praises, and they said, these sort of things are how people are sending music now.
That is really cool. Yeah.
As opposed to saying and I think SoundCloud is still very much relevant in that conversation as well. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to take away from it, because that's one of the platforms I've used to send people music and stuff.
For sure.
And we, as Crew 22 have used. But they said it's becoming an industry standard that, not Disco by itself, but Disco and sites like it are becoming a platform to reach music supervisors. Sync agents.
Where it's like a monthly payment will get you in. I know of websites like Syncer and Music Gateway and Music X-Ray and all these are like where you pay to submit kind of thing. You know what I mean? They have leads on there. A lot of them. Well, actually, there were a few I think early on that were just complete scams, which is ridiculous. But I think which is what this sounds like this Disco is doing. It's kind of it is the new standard for getting your music to licensing companies and people who want to be in that world. Yeah.
Right. And so we decided to give it a try. And so it's with a 3-man team.
Yeah.
We just kind of one guy pays for 2 months, the next guy pays for 2 months, and we're,
Sweet.
Kind of doing it. So, and it's just, I look at things like that. If it doesn't cost an arm and a leg, I look at things like that, because I can be quite miserly, by the way. I can be kind of an Ebenezer Scrooge in a lot of ways. Sometimes. But those are more kind of investments, because you get the cut, and you get a license on it. And even with my deal, which is, a third of that license or something like that, you make the money back,
Sure.
Make the money back, and you turn a profit and everything. And, I wish it were free,
We all wish it were free. I think for them, it kind of also is it's like adding a paywall. Kind of, it doesn't let everybody in. You know what I mean?
Well,
so they have some sense of amount of of a gateway of letting people in.
Yeah.
So they're not flooded with, random tracks all the time.
Right. Well, and to that end, also, I think it determines who the serious folks are.
Sure. Yeah. Definitely.
Serious business people who really wants to do business in this world and get placements and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, you got some skin in the game. And if you're willing to put a little skin in the game, even if it's just a couple bucks here and there,
and try it out. I mean, if it doesn't work, then you got your answer.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so it definitely, I think sites like these are the way to go if you're just starting out in this industry, in the sync industry, because they'll have specific leads. I don't know, does Disco do that, or how do they?
I don't know if they do or not. I'm not, because I'm not the hands and feet of it. I know John runs the Crew 22 profile, so that's probably a question for him. I'm the guy that's like, okay, you need
just write the songs.
Right. Well, and I mean, but I do have my sights set on us getting into micro. And I think I'm going to open my own account in January.
Interesting. That's really cool.
To be just specifically to go, hey guys, this is my, like to John and Rod, like this is my mission.
Right.
Because a lot of times, we'll say, okay, these contacts, because, John was the guy that went out and met with them. So John's usually our conduit for all three of us to, speak with,
right.
Heavy hitters or Sam Diaz or some of the other folks we've had placement opportunities with. And then, but like I said, we're so tight with Beth. It's like
she seems to be a huge champion of your. I mean, that's Imaginary Friends, music partners. I mean, boy, I was with them for 3 months and she got me placed. I mean, she got a song of mine in there, and I'd never been really placed for one of my original songs before. I mean, it was crazy. She's great. And if I could write any Christmas music at all, I would be submitting it. But it's a tough thing, man. It's tough.
Well, and that's always a hard one too. I mean, I've had one or two. I got one last year. That's great. I got one at the end of last year. Guy who's also is on IFMP's roster. Guy named Matt Bednarski.
Okay.
Pennsylvania guy. We started writing together, and we wrote 3 or 4 tunes last year during the pandemic, during COVID.
Wow.
And one of them we did a Halloween song, which I would love, which he and I would both love to get placed.
An original Halloween song?
An original Halloween song.
That's really cool.
Something like a la Monster Mash.
Yeah.
Like we wrote it, and we would trade. The cool thing with me and Matt was we would trade who would cut things.
Right.
So I was like, I'll cut the music at my studio. You sing, and that's what I love about working remote is you get.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
Great about 2021 is you can do this sort of thing. But we would, I cut most of the track for that. And I don't know if he played, I don't know. He may have sang backgrounds on it or something. I can't remember, but I did it here at the, like behind me, like I did it all here at with my setup in the writer studio. And I went for like a total, like Monster Mash meets That Thing You Do kind of thing. Cause I love mid 60s rock and roll is like,
love it.
I love it. And,
that's really cool.
Like, Beatles, Beach Boys, Wrecking Crew, Glenn Campbell, that kind of, Monkeys, like that kind of stuff. So went for a retro vibe, and I still want to get it placed, but we had a song called, All In for Christmas. Matt and I did, we wrote it.
Yeah.
I think we wrote it in like August or September of last year, and Beth picked it up. And we got it used.
That's really cool.
Over Christmas, I think they had just, because production had been out for a while, and they got it started back up last September. And it was during the first Christmas rush.
Yep. There you go.
The songs, we need Christmas songs. And I had, I think it was used twice. Yeah, I think it was used twice. So, which was fantastic.
Twice in one episode?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Really, yeah.
See, that's something that.
Well, I think it was 2 different episodes.
Okay.
But,
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, so great.
That's great.
And that's the thing with Beth. It's like I'll go back sometimes and I'll go, oh, what was used today?
Yeah.
Beautiful thing. I wrote that song 10 years ago.
Sure.
And it was on in the cafe today, for that episode, and it's been used for. So, one of the songs that again didn't wind up being an artist cut for me, but it's a great tune. I was really proud of, called "The Fire Is Still Burning." I think they RC and those guys have used that times in different episodes and stuff. And I mean,
songs in your back catalog can still be used. I mean, you don't have to start over necessarily.
We've done that there was a licensing opportunity that we did, I want to say in late 2019, where we took a lot of back catalog stuff that some had been used for sync or pitched for sync. And there was a company that was putting stuff out that they said, we want to get you guys, we want to help you license with. It's just another one of those revenue stream, extra.
Yeah.
And so we put together like 8 compilations, like 7 or 8 compilations.
Wow.
And wrote specifically. And, it's not going to put a pool in the backyard, but it's, I can't break ground on a pool, but
sure,
certainly going to, buy diapers and formula. So
man, you are making a living
right.
with your own original music on TV and then also gigging on the side, but still all in on music, man.
Yeah. I mean, I am so fortunate that like I've gotten to do musical, my jobs have been nothing but music or music related, since I was about 21 years old.
Yeah.
The last time I worked in an office or worked in a restaurant, I was 20 years old, and I'm 37 in a couple of weeks. So I've had, going on, pushing almost 20 years of being, full-time or quasi full-time musician, because obviously, and I count, because I was doing music at churches, I count that as, and I do the one little thing that I do, which just, I take a commission because I'm a performer, and I just take a little bit of commission, is the couple of the hospitality venues I play here in town. I do help schedule the other musicians that play.
Great.
But I make so much, I make more as a performer. My bigger paycheck is the performance. So,
right.
But yeah, it has been a full-time living. I think the only time I had to stop out was extra things I've done was, there was a car payment that needed to be made, or there was a car repair that we needed, and it was kind of a slower time. And I did some audiobook editing, but I did one project. It was only one. And then pick back out, so it was a little piece of cool. Like 2013 or something like that.
Yeah.
But
that's really cool.
Yeah. And I've been through all of the things, like I've been through it that, it's really great. People always say, well, it's feast or famine when you're an entertainer and stuff like that. And it's like, that can be true. But like you said, like what we're talking about with all of these different revenue streams and all of these ways, all these pathways for independent musicians.
Yeah. There's a middle ground for sure.
Yeah. I'm quite proud to be a middle-class musician. That doesn't mean I'm not trying to go for, the brass ring still. It's just that, it's just that, man, I don't know. There's a lot to be, there's a lot of, it's funny. John was telling me, cause I was telling him, man, I'm so, just getting up with the kids and doing He said, you're that good kind of tired right now. He said, you're tired from things being good in your life, and I'm one of those stupidly lucky guys, as they've always been pretty good. And, the fact that I even got to give it a shot at all is, and do what I love to do and do what I'm passionate about and make a living at it. I'm done. That's like,
I completely agree, man. When my 20s were all about being a rock star, being a household name. And now it's like, man, I'm happy to make a living,
Yeah. And I don't think that's I don't want people to confuse that for settling and everything like that.
It's completely not. And we're in the golden age of doing what you do. Because there's so much media being created.
Yeah.
So many different ways for our music to be out there. It needs to be more on the forefront for musicians. I think it is becoming more on the forefront, like writing for sync and doing this kind of thing full time, which is great.
Well, and another thing I was going to mention, and I don't want to take up too much.
Go for it.
I was going to mention in those other revenue streams, I had a friend of mine that just told me about this, and I've only done like a couple of projects with it.
Yeah.
But I have dabbled now in this, like we were talking about writing overly on the dime and it not working out for sync stuff. I've done a couple projects with this company that a friend of mine, another musician friend of mine, told me about. And you're writing custom songs for people.
Right.
Stuff. You're composing custom songs. I'm sure you're familiar with a couple of those and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I, again, because there is a lot, I'm again, so fortunate that there's a ton on my plate, but I thought, but I'm always this person. I have the Morgan Freeman complex. Like I'm always afraid, like, don't say no,
yeah. Oh man.
if you can do it.
Yeah.
So like, like reach out, come on, or as Rodney would say, I don't turn down nothing but my collar. That's what he always said.
Yeah, man. I've had some of these webs. I think there's called like Songfinch or something like that.
Yes.
Is that what it is too? I've been in contact with them.
Yeah.
Also, and it's very specific custom songwriting, what I mean?
And I decided to kind of, dabble in it.
Yeah.
Because I thought maybe this was the thing I was thinking. I mean, obviously it's another revenue stream. So there's that. It keeps a roof over your head, feeds the babies. But also I thought, well, I want to get better at writing on the, I want to, maybe this is an opportunity to improve on something in my songwriting game that maybe hasn't yielded success for me. That, and I was very, that was sort of how I rationalized it when I was telling my wife about it.
it really is though, because it's the opposite of what you do lyrically, at least for sync.
Yeah. But I like the specificity in the sense that like they, like you can go, well, this is what the people just tell you what they want.
They tell you their whole life story. Basically. They tell you, it's really cool.
And I think that I think that there's something, obviously, how could you not be precious with stuff like that? Like, people are giving you things and sort of quasi intimate details about their relationships or how much they love their parent or how much they love their spouse or whatever, or their brother or sister. Like how can you, so, and the funny thing is that they were telling me they had a need for country music.
Okay.
And so much like John did, you got any of that emo shit? Sure we do. It's like, well,
yeah, man.
I'm not known as an acoustic pop god, but hey, I'm in Nashville and country,
I know. And even, I'm in Kentucky. I've done country weddings and man, that's not my specialty, but if you tell me, what songs you want, I will learn them.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if that's selling out, I don't really care.
Dude. Yeah. I don't worry about that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I'm north of 35, so you don't worry about that stuff.
It's like, so different than it was back in the day.
When you talk about that kind of stuff, because there was a time when I was, probably when I first came to town in my mid 20s, I was like, I'm gonna be, I'm gonna be serious about that. I'm not gonna that kind of thing. And now I just, it's really what it is being able to connect with people.
Yeah.
As far as artistically, what I like to do, and it's like I like building this community around me. I like the intimacy. Yeah. I think that's what I crave a lot when I'm playing live. It's like this sort of thing, and being able to like, it's great to be the center of attention. I enjoy that. Not gonna lie. but the deeper thing is being able to connect with people. And when you play, whether it's one of your songs or whether it's a cover song, when you play something for them, when you do something that and you see it in their eyes that they're going back to when they were like 16 and they first heard that song or something like that, and oh man, I love this song, thank you so much. Like, there's a moment there, and you created something.
That's what it's all about.
It's great. There's this giving, there's this back and forth between you and the crowd.
Absolutely, man. That's what it's all about. That's hey, man. Well, Chris, thank you for being here, man. I really appreciate it. It was great talking to you. I always love talking to you. And I'm so glad that you get to keep doing this. And I'm so happy for you with you and your kids. I'm so happy about your new baby and all that stuff, man. That's so cool. And just the balancing act of doing what you're doing is really cool. I'm glad you're happy tired. I'm glad you're happy tired.
My neighbor 2 doors down, I'm pointing because this is as if anyone will. I'm pointing because I know there won't be video of this, but I'm pointing for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
For your listeners' benefit, but like but he goes, we were out doing trick or treat with the kids with Holland. We're taking her out to trick or treat.
Yeah.
The 31st. And he goes, man, Holland's darted off with her mom and candy. And I'm talking to my neighbor, Jason, and he says, man, you're juggling, aren't you? I said, you know it. Yeah. I'm like, I said, that's what it is. It's like, all here, it's, and I wouldn't, the thing is that I wouldn't have it any other way. It would be nice to like sleep occasionally, but like
sure, but you'll happily give it up for
right. Well, that's the thing, and I mean, you have to figure out like what works and what doesn't, and because it's never been, again, going back to kind of coming full circle, what we were talking about when we first got it started, was, again, like having someone like my wife, Lauren, in my life, it's like, it's never been like, music has never been, oh, you're trying to have your cake and eat it too.
Yes.
She's just like, this is like your wife was telling you, it's like, this is not all you are. This is not the only thing you are. This is not completely who you are. There's more to you than this, but you are meant for this life. This is what you do. This is like, this is one of the biggest parts of you.
Yeah. And I'm sure being a parent instantly crystallizes that for you, that you're more than music. And although music is a great part of your life and it's great. And it crystallizes it for sure. That's a great way to put it. And it immediately, like what it did for me and what it's done, what it really has done for me is it motivates me knowing I have these children, like, and knowing that, like, again, how fortunate I am to get to make a living making music. But that's why I feel like I'm just dog tired, because I'm just, and that's why I don't say no. I say no to very few things or try to make it work, because I'm going, man, this is a motivator, because not only is it providing for my family, obviously, like all of us do, but there's also this thing of wanting my kids to like, this is going to sound silly, but like I care what those kids think of me. I mean, like of course, I want them to be inspired to do what they want to do. I want them to follow their passions, and I want them to, I mean, I want so many things for my kids, and I figured one of the best ways I can do that is, showing them that, like, look, you can do what you love and you can work hard at it, and it's not always easy. Right. But and I know this sounds so cheesy and cliche. No, it's perfect. I mean, it's exactly. Go ahead.
Oh no, I feel like we're going to get one of those like NBC, the more you know kind of things.
I was just talking to my mom today. She says hi, by the way. And my mom was wondering if you are ever going to try to steer them towards or away from music, if they're interested.
Well, I think it's pretty unavoidable with Holland. She loves, she sits, sometimes she'll sit in this very chair and she'll go, Daddy, let me sit. And like, I'll pull up, she goes, pull up the track. Like there's a track, the track that I just, that's only on like my Patreon, like unreleased stuff. Right. Like a previous unreleased track that I sent to my patrons. And she has me pull that. It's a song called Where We Started From. And I wrote it way back in 2005 or something like that. It's never been on a record. Right. And she has me pull up the track, and she sits at the big computer and will sit there. Wow. And sit there with this. Hang on, I gotta grab this. She'll sit there with this little toy ukulele and sit and just, sing and play. She'll just, and she is an actress for sure. Like she has she's a vivid imagination, which so
you're all in. She's.
Yeah. I think we've got at least one other entertainer. At least one. We know when it's too soon to tell, but I want to encourage them. I mean, my parents always encouraged me to do, they said, if you can do what you love to do, great, and my parents said, whether that's playing music, whether that's, mowing lawns, whether that's collecting garbage, whether that's being a lawyer or a doctor or working at a bank, whatever it was, right. I like to do it, and I gave my best at it. They were in.
Yeah. And my parents are very similar. They're both still in music, and there was a time when they tried to warn me about certain things in the industry that were not, it's not, it's not for the faint of heart, for sure, in any way, shape or form. But man, my dad's been telling me to get into sync writing forever. And I just, in my 20s, I just did not want any part of it. Right. You know what I mean? Just like, God, and you know what? He's right. It's a solid business plan.
I hate it when they're right.
I hate fucking the worst. and I don't find out till like 10 years later that he's right. You know what I mean?
And I'm sure, my kids are going to say, oh, I hate it when dad's right.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to be right. I mean, I figured, it's oddly unsettling. It would be oddly unsettling for me when they tell me that. Probably it's like, okay,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean,
for sure.
That's
I mean,
great, my parents had a lot of, and my parents are not in the music business. I mean, but we just, like I said, my uncle is, and cousins, but my parents were, like I said, when I was growing up, I mean, music was a whole, I mean, it's a part of life, I mean, it's just part of, you can't function without it,
Yeah. So did they play music at all or yeah,
I mean, my mom sang a little bit and my dad, this is fun. This is great. I got to tell you this because they were in right before Halloween. They came to visit. My dad and I went to see Nate Bargatze at the Ryman. It was like, it was a rescheduled show. He's calling it the Rain Check Tour.
Right.
We were supposed to go see that last day, not this past April, but April 2020.
Right.
So it was a very belated birthday present for my dad. But he's been wanting to get back into, because when they were dating in the early 80s, mom would sing and dad would play a little bit of guitar for her and everything. And that was one of their, when they'd hang, like after a day or something like that, I mean, it's just something.
Yeah.
And they've been wanting to do that. So I went and I took dad to buy a new Fender Telecaster the other day.
Oh, wow.
Which was great because it's weird when you get to be the guy, because I mean, dad would take me to buy equipment when I was younger.
Yep.
And he'd have a little bit of know-how on it, but not a ton. And, and so for me, like the tables of time, I'm like, Dad, just get one down. What do you like? What do you got? And then the salesman's talking with me because they know me at the guitar shop and because I've been there a million times.
Sure.
And I bought stuff from them. And I just bought 2 new guitars in August myself. So it was, 2 new electrics that I couldn't get over and stuff. I may have to come on and show you before we jump off here, but
no problem.
Like I have to show these to you because I think.
Yeah.
But it was great because I got to do the thing of like, it felt weird because it was my dad. Well, he's looking for something he can just play for fun. And
what a full circle.
Yeah. And so, music's always a passion, whether anybody did it professionally or not. But my parents just, whatever it was, they always just advised me. It's like, just, try to pick something you like doing if you can and that you love doing and, dedicate yourself to it. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like that was, that's really, when you get down to the bottom line stuff with me, I think that's really
all you needed. Yeah, definitely.
And so,
well, we're going to go ahead and actually end. We'll end the show and then I'll talk to you afterwards for a little bit.
Oh, okay. All right.
So this is going to air in January, probably the 3rd episode or so. People can find you. So you're still doing the Patreon thing? Is that right?
Yeah, I wanted to tell you about that. Well, I mean, later after we, we can.
If you want to promote it, go for it. Okay.
But yeah, if you want to follow me on Patreon, I started that in February. I have not been, again, some stuff has fallen by the wayside because, there's an infant.
Yes.
And so along with like resurrecting my email list, I decided to join the Patreon community because again, trying to build, that tribe, trying that core.
Yeah.
That. So what I've done so far is I kind of started, it would probably be considered by, folks who are more experienced in the podcast game, like yourself,
sure.
more like blog post kind of thing, like audio blogs, which I know that's what a podcast is, but but I call it the song journals. And
cool.
I'd like to turn it in, build it more into a podcast kind of community over there.
Right.
That's really the main thing. But I just basically talk about all the stuff we've talked about the stories behind these songs and everything. And
right.
I've written, quote, Chris songs since 2004. So there's 17, almost 18 years of stories that people always ask me about at shows. And then it's like, oh, wait, we got to buy our last bottle of wine. We got to go. They're closing up shop. So we'll do, it's like that kind of thing. So So I go into, deep dive into that kind of stuff. And then there's songs that haven't been released. And so I recorded some things, and I've thought about doing some cover materials and kind of, cover material like that people really like doing one of my next things I'd like to see if I can work out is like doing like a, all 1980s hits EP and a 1990s rock EP. Yeah. Stuff like that, and 70s soft rock where I, do like James Taylor and Bread in America and all this cover repertoire that people really like to hear when I play live. And, but it's patreon.com/Chris Carpenter because apparently I made it there early.
Cool.
Like on my Venmo, I'm Chris Carpenter 33. So there were like 32 other Chris Carpenters before me. I don't know. It was
and ChrisCarpenter.com. Still active. ChrisCarpenterMusic.com.
ChrisCarpenterMusic.com. That's the best place to find me.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you doing this, man. Taking time out to do this.
Charlie, thanks always, man. Thanks as always.
No problem.
I appreciate you, so much. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I'm going to promote you, and I'm probably going to play One and Only at the end of the show.
That's
love
great.
That song, or throughout the show, maybe. I just love that song so much.
Thank you.
Anyway, thanks again, dude.
Absolutely, Charlie. Thank you.
Now you're my one and only. You're my only friend. Yeah, you're my one and only. You are my beginning. You are my beginning. You are my beginning and my end. Oh, yeah. The beginning and my end. My end. I'll say love, 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 love. I say love, 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 love. I say love, love, love.
Thanks for listening to Mad Sound Radio.